Hi everyone, I'm Michael and welcome to Musings of a Watch Collector and my very first video. In this video we're going to be looking at my 1982 Omega Seamaster Jacques Mayol edition. But let me first briefly touch on why I began watch collecting, and let me premise by saying that there are absolutely no hard or fast rules when it comes to this very enjoyable hobby. Like any art, hobby or craft, its meaning lies in the eye of the beholder. So when did I start collecting? To be honest, I actually can't remember when I first started collecting watches. But I can recall one of the first watches that came into my possession, and then it was this Omega Seamaster. Let me go back to my youth. Unfortunately, my father had passed away at a very young age. Obviously, it took some time thereafter to sort through some of his personal effects and belongings. So this would have been when I was about 19, that I was sorting through some of his belongings, and I was going through a container, and I fondly recall coming across this black, unassuming leather pouch. This pouch, being about the size of a coin purse, would fit into one's hand quite easily. I opened the pouch, and there I came across this 1982 Omega Seamaster Jacques Mayol edition. Now, my mother never even knew that my father had the watch, and my father wasn't even much of a watch wearer, but it was decided that I got to keep this very special piece. I didn't wear watches often. It was only until I was a young adult that I graduated university and I found a job in the corporate world, in the office, that I decided to look more professional and wanted to pair my cufflinks and my suits with a nice timepiece. And so in the back of my mind, I always knew I had the Omega Seamaster in my possession. I hadn't taken it to a watchmaker since finding it. And so the quest was on for me to see if the watch was still working. I toddled off to a watchmaker in my local area and was pleased to hear him report that the watch was in perfect working condition. From this one watch, which has a lot of sentimental value, my hobby blossomed into what it is today. And like most watch collectors, in our infancy, enthusiasm is abound. Research is undertaken, and the add to cart button is pressed on numerous occasions, which takes us and brings us to this current moment in space and time. And so here we are. Before we get into a review, let me start by saying that Omega is one of the world's most renowned watchmakers, with a horological history spanning more than 172 years, having been founded in 1848 in Switzerland. It is known for some of the world's most iconic watches that include the Speedmaster, Constellation, Railmaster, and Seamaster watch lines. Jacques Mayol was a French diver and a marine researcher, and pioneered diving and its profession as a sport. He was affectionately known as the Dolphin Man. He holds several world records and is known for developing breathing techniques, especially for free diving. Then in 1976, off the coast of Elba in Italy, he made a historical record-setting dive, being the first man to free dive 100 meters. The dive lasted for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. This dive was a culmination of more than 20 years worth of hard work, experimental and medical training. And then in 1983, at the age of 56, he broke his previous world record and free dived to the depth of 105 meters, wearing on his wrist this Omega Seamaster. The Omega Seamaster, reference 196.1085, is the first watch to reach the depth of more than 100 meters in a free dive. Omega were one of the few Swiss watchmakers that jumped onto the quartz bandwagon during the quartz revolution. This watch was made in 1982 and runs on an Omega Quartz 1337 movement. It has 17 jewels and is housed in a 37mm case. It has a beautiful black dial with silver batons and a date window at the 3 o'clock. The white hands sit strikingly against the black face of the watch. It also has a one-directional bezel. This is all protected by its original sapphire crystal. To set the time, it runs on a push-button system. This isn't very common, and the only other watch in my collection that has this method of setting the time is my 1970 Bulova Accutron. Both the crown and the clasp on this piece is signed with the Omega logo. The clasp has another unique design element, being a push and slide deployment clasp, which isn't very common these days. The caseback is a snapback and also is embossed with the unique Omega Seamaster logo. Coming across this watch by chance and being the first piece in my collection makes it all the more special, but even more so because of its sentimental value. It's even more significant due to the history behind the watch, having researched the significance of this piece to the diving world and also to Omega. This piece is very rare these days. Having a look on the second-hand watch market, there are a very few available for this one, and also its variant, which comes in two-tone, silver and gold. I'll definitely be cherishing this piece in my collection, as I can imagine it'd be worth quite a bit in the future. Let me know what your first watch was, when you started collecting, or whether or not you own this particular model. Feel free to comment below, and thanks for watching. I'm Michael, and I'll see you next time on Musings of a Watch Collector.